Have you checked Joe Lunardi's bracketology lately?
I looked just like February, maybe even yesterday. 6?
They are the 6th seed in the Indianapolis region.
St. Bonaventure, is that right?
Yeah, Kentucky's done.
Right.
Duke lost to Notre Dame on Tuesday. They're done.
Yeah, they're 7-8. Kentucky's 5-13. I mean, it's over.
Dude, Kentucky's season is over. Duke's season is over. North Carolina comes in at a 10 seed. You know, the Chiefs getting baptized by Tom Brady and the Buccaneers and Vita Vea and Shaq Barrett, that put things into perspective for me, that you got to stop and smell the roses and appreciate what you have while you have it. You don't just get to be good every year because you're a blue blood. And I don't know if Kansas is good, but they're a hell of a lot better than those teams are.
This is Basketball Friends. He's Nick Schwerdt. I'm Matt Tait, and KU coming off of a 78-66 victory over a ranked opponent as an unranked team. Something that Bill Self said after that victory on Monday night that really stuck with me was the idea that, hey, yeah, this team's a little tight because we've lost 6-7 games and we don't do this all the time. But if we're going to be tight, we might as well embrace it, and we might as well just defend the hell out of people and make them play bad and not care a lick about offense. Just play defense. You can do that when you're tight. Bill Self has been a defensive coach his entire life and will continue to emphasize that. So why does it seem so strange that he's saying, ditch the offense, let's focus on defense?
This is the least efficient offense that Bill Self has ever had at Kansas. That's why it seems weird. You have to have a niche. You have to have a calling card. What is going to be the thing that you hang your hat on when nothing else is working? Your niche is not going to come offensively. It's Bill Self saying, if we're going to have a niche, it's going to be that we are going to make life miserable for you defensively. And even to that point, they haven't done it at a super consistent level. But that seems to be the goal that they're working towards, to get to the point where we're going to slow things down, we're going to muck it up, and we're going to make life miserable for the opposing offense.
Well, that's it. And I want to point out, too, that it's not about playing great defense. It's not necessarily about being perfect on that side of the ball. It's just about being good enough that you're bothering the other team and making them miserable. That's all it's about right now, is what gives you the best chance to win a game. Because here in about 3-4 weeks, the only thing that's going to matter is, did you win or is your season over?
You know, you go back to that game on Monday against Oklahoma State, as awful as that start was offensively, and you were just going to Dave, right? You went to him on the first possession of the game. He walks with it. The next possession, he's got a bunny underneath the basket, and he misses it. Next possession, Ochai misses a mid-range. He gets an offensive rebound. Great opportunity for a putback. Misses it. Next possession of the game, baseline out-of-bounds play. They get to Ochai. Great cut by Dave to the rim. Ochai throws it 3 feet above. It didn't work for whatever reason. And as bad as that start to the game was, they did settle into a bit of a groove, and it, again, was going to Dave. And I've laughed at times when Bill Self has said, that's our best offensive weapon. You look at the numbers and what he's done basically these last 10 games versus the first 9, he's been a completely different player. These last 10 games, he's averaging just shy of 17 points per game. He's been KU's best offensive option, just like Bill Self said, when all of us sort of rolled our eyes and said, are you watching the same guy that we are? But that speaks to the offensive woes, that this team isn't a great passing team. This team doesn't execute a ton offensively. They seem to be a step slow a lot of times when trying to find the open man on the perimeter. They're never going to execute it at the level that's going to be good enough for that to be what their strength is as a team, which I think is why they've now gotten to the point where they just say, hey, you know what? Dave may not be the most efficient big man that we've ever had. It's better than anything else we have as an option right now.
Well, it comes back to confidence. And I think this team has struggled to have confidence, individually and collectively for most of the season. But the one guy who hasn't is Dave McCormack. I mean, he started as horribly as he did the other night. Didn't bother him in the least.
What does bother him?
Good question.
He's a big movie buff. Bad cinematography, perhaps poor dialogue and an otherwise great script.
He plays the drums, right? We know that. So maybe a A crappy bass player.
Yeah, bass player who just can't stay on tempo, speeding up, slowing down. Yeah, most of the things that bother him probably aren't basketball related because I've never seen his confidence wane in between the lines.
Yeah, open shots don't bother him at all. He loves
Neither do contested shots. I'll be interested to see what happens here over the next week or so when you got games against Iowa State and Kansas State, because Bill Self sort of flipped a switch. A few weeks ago, when it became very obvious that this team's not going to win the Big 12, he changed his tune and talked about this is not going to be a storybook season, but we can still have a storybook ending. Then, after the game against Oklahoma State, it was back to this is going to be the most important stretch of games that we've had all season. It's almost like he snapped out of it. Like Will Ferrell in the debate scene in Old School where he just blacks out for a second and goes,
What happened? I blacked out.
like he's back to the point where he's saying, no, okay, I was nice for a little while. I was glass half full for a while. I was upbeat for a while. Back to the idea of demanding of them what he would any other Kansas team that he's had in the past 18 years.
The whole idea of this team being tight, right? That plays into that because when you're tight, when you're overthinking, when you're worried about mistakes, when you're worried about what your coach is going to say or do, or if you're going to get yanked, who plays well in those circumstances? No one. I don't know. There's something about offense that's poetic and pretty and flowing and kind of like a symphony or something. But on defense, it doesn't have to be that. Make life miserable for your guy. Keep them from scoring, and things will unfold on the other end where you might only need to score 60, 65 points to win a game.
By the way, did you see the other night, West Virginia, Texas Tech, Chris Beard with an all-time ejection? I don't think there's anything better in sports outside of the actual field of play, outside of the actual competition, that's more enjoyable to watch than a coach coming completely unglued and getting ejected from a game.
Personally, my favorite is when anybody chugs anything on any kind of camera. Like if you catch the ball, a foul ball, and then you chug it, like that's gold. But like remember the stuff that even when they're famous, right? Like remember when Aaron Rodgers was on the video cam at a baseball
and
game?
He didn't do a good job.
No.
And then they show his offensive lineman, David Bakhtari, who's just double fisting Bud Lights and puts him to shame.
I'm there for that.
Absolutely.
That's the stuff I live for right there. That's good stuff.
Let's rank some of these things then. How about a light scrum? I'm not talking out a full out brawl. I'm talking about two drunk guys in the stands yelling at each other. Usually they're going to be on separate rows from one another, so there's no actual punches connecting. But because they're on rows and you're on a steep decline, it generally just results in them sort of falling over the rows in front of them. They look uncoordinated.
I also like when within that moment, the two dudes are going at it, and then like their wives or girlfriends will like start. It's kind of like hockey goalies, right? Like,
right.
Well, I guess I got to fight you now. Let's go. I love
Let me just find somebody to punch. Let's go. Underrated one. It's withstood the test of time is the kiss cam, because there are so many different ways the kiss cam can go. It can be a guy getting rejected by the kiss cam. That's great.
The best.
Or how about the elderly couple? And they'll usually go for a long smooch and the whole crowd just erupts. Just love seeing two old people make out on camera. Okay, it's time for another edition of Name That Player. The game is quite simple. I will give you a quote from Bill Self in which he is talking about a current or a former Kansas basketball player. Matt, it is your job to tell me which player Bill Self is referencing. Here is your quote for today. Quote, "We've never recruited anyone brighter. Although I've never told him this, I don't think we've ever recruited anybody tougher."
Gosh, brighter and tougher. Whew. So my guess, and it's probably not right, but my guess is Landon Lucas.
Oh, he threw it out there. He threw a dart. Nailed it.
Look, Landon is absolutely one of the brightest dudes they've ever had. If you're making a list of most underrated Kansas players under Bill Self, Landon Lucas is absolutely on that list.
That's funny you bring that up because if we're making a list of the most overrated players to ever play against Kansas, according to the KU students, Cade Cunningham is absolutely on that list.
Who would have ever thought that we would hear the overrated chant in Allen Fieldhouse more this year than the Rock Chalk chant?
With the way this team plays, maybe not having that alpha male on the court, like, I don't know how many body parts Bill Self would give up to have Cade Cunningham on this team, but I mean, I think we're talking. Okay, let's just start. A finger on each hand for sure. Probably pinky toe, maybe an earlobe, and a few teeth. Like, let's just start there for what Bill Self would do to have a guy like Cade Cunningham.
Yeah, but he's so overrated. Haven't you been paying attention?
Yeah, so are pinky toes.